Silence. A hearing room in Washington. The kind of silence that precedes a confession. Senator Dick Durbin leans forward. His voice is measured, precise. Did Dan Bongino receive a disqualifying alert on his polygraph examination? For 62 seconds, Kash Patel, nominee to lead the FBI, speaks. Words tumble out. Bureaucratic, evasive, circular. Processes were followed. Internal review mechanisms. Standard departmental protocols. 62 seconds of language designed to obscure. Then, the question again, sharper this time. Yes or no? Did he fail the polygraph? Patel's shoulders drop. One word. Yes. The room exhales. In Brussels, intelligence analysts stop mid-conversation. In Paris, counterterrorism officials refresh their news feeds. In Berlin, security ministers ask the same question being whispered across the Atlantic. How does someone who fails a security test end up with access to America's most sensitive secrets? This is the story of a system broken, a test failed, and a fast-track approval that has become a transatlantic security crisis. Late evening in Strasbourg. The European Parliament's Intelligence Oversight Committee convenes an emergency session. Not scheduled, not announced. Word has traveled fast. A Polish MEP raises her hand. If this is true, she says, her voice tight with controlled anger, we are sharing intelligence with a government that cannot vet its own security personnel. Murmurs ripple through the chamber. Across Europe, the implications are immediate. Five Eyes intelligence sharing, the bedrock of Western security cooperation, now carries a question mark. NATO briefings, joint counterterrorism operations, classified cyber threat assessments. All of it flows through channels that may now be compromised. In Stockholm, a Swedish security analyst puts it plainly. You cannot have intelligence partnership with a country that grants clearances based on political loyalty rather than security standards. But to understand how we arrived here, we must go back. Back to a small office in Washington. Back to a polygraph test. Back to the moment when red flags were raised and then ignored. It sits in a classified folder. Beige, unremarkable, stamped FBI Personnel Security Division, confidential. Inside, the polygraph results for Dan Bongino, dated months ago, read by security officers whose job is singular, determine who can be trusted with America's secrets. Their conclusion was clear, disqualifying alert. In the language of security clearances, this is not ambiguous. It means, do not proceed. It means, this individual has shown deception on matters critical to national security. It means, stop. But the report did not stop anything. Instead, it became evidence of something else entirely. Evidence that when political pressure meets security protocol, protocol loses. The escalation. Whistleblowers emerge. One by one, they come forward. 7 FBI security officers, careers spanning decades, reputations built on discretion. Now they speak. Their accounts are chilling in their consistency. Officer 1 describes a phone call, late night, from a senior official. The Bongino clearance needs to move faster. No explanation, no justification, just pressure. Officer 2 details the meeting where concerns were dismissed. We presented the polygraph results, the deception indicators, the follow-up interviews. A pause. We were told those concerns were political obstacles. Officer 3, a 28-year veteran, speaks with quiet fury. I have never seen a disqualifying alert overridden for a political appointee. Her voice cracks. We were ordered to find a way to approve it. Officer 4 reveals the memo, an internal directive. Fast-track all clearances for incoming administration personnel. No exceptions listed, but everyone understood. The standards had changed. Officer 5 describes the atmosphere. People stopped asking questions. They knew the answers didn't matter. Officer 6, who submitted his resignation 3 weeks ago, is blunt. This isn't security clearance, it's political theater. Officer 7, still active, speaks on condition of anonymity. We've become rubber stamps, and that terrifies me. Because rubber stamps don't stop threats. They approve them. The confession, 62 seconds. Let us return to that hearing room, to those 62 seconds, because they are worth examining, word by word. Patel begins. The clearance process involves multiple stages of review, each designed to ensure that… Durbin interrupts. Did he receive a disqualifying alert or not? Patel continues. That all relevant information is considered within the appropriate context of operational needs and… Mr. Patel, yes or no? Historical precedent suggests that certain alerts can be re-evaluated through secondary assessment protocols which… You're evading the question. Which are standard practice when initial findings require clarification through additional investigative measures that… Silence. Durbin does not move. The camera holds on Patel's face. 10 seconds pass. Then, yes. In that moment, something breaks. Not just in Washington. Across the Atlantic, intelligence liaisons absorb the confirmation. The private fears become public fact. A man who failed a polygraph test, a test designed to detect deception, to identify security risks, has been given access to intelligence that affects millions, including European citizens. Intelligence community reaction. The assessments come swiftly, from current officers, former directors, allied services. A former CIA station chief in Europe speaks carefully. This is what we would call, in operational terms, a catastrophic security failure. He pauses. Not because one person failed a test, but because the system designed to catch that failure was overridden. An MI6 liaison, speaking anonymously, is more direct. We are now reassessing what intelligence we share with American counterparts. Full stop. A German BND analyst provides context. In our system, a failed polygraph ends the clearance process. Immediately. There is no political override. She looks at the camera. Because politics cannot be allowed to compromise security. Ever. A French DGSI officer describes the ripple effect. Joint operations are being reviewed, sources are being reevaluated, trust has been damaged. But perhaps most damning is the American voice, a 30-year NSA veteran. I have worked with European partners my entire career. We have built relationships based on one thing, trust. His voice drops. They trusted us to vet our people, to maintain standards, to put security above politics. He looks away. I don't know how we rebuild that. The consequences are not abstract. They are measured in operations compromised, in sources exposed, in lives endangered. In Vienna, an intelligence operation tracking terrorist financing is quietly suspended. American participation is removed. No official explanation. Everyone understands. In Rome, a joint cybersecurity task force delays a planned briefing. Classified materials, previously shared freely, are now withheld. In Copenhagen, a Danish security officer describes the conversation with her American counterpart. She apologized, actually apologized, said she didn't know who had access to what anymore. A pause. That's when I realized how bad this was. But beyond the professional impact lies something deeper. The ordinary citizens of Europe, going about their lives, unaware that the security architecture protecting them has been quietly undermined. The commuter in London, the student in Amsterdam, the family in Warsaw, all relying on intelligence cooperation to detect threats, to prevent attacks, to keep them safe. And now that cooperation is fractured, not by an enemy attack, but by political convenience. the policy dilemma. In Brussels, a debate unfolds. Behind closed doors, European security officials face an impossible choice. Option 1. Continue intelligence sharing as before. Pretend nothing has changed. Accept the risk. Option 2. Restrict information flow to American agencies. Protect European sources and methods, but weaken collective security. Option 3. Demand reform. Make continued cooperation contingent on restored standards. Risk diplomatic crisis. A senior EU counterterrorism official describes the dilemma. We need American intelligence, desperately. Their capabilities are unmatched. She stares at her notes. But we cannot risk our sources, our operations, our people. She looks up. So, what do we do? The question hangs, because there is no good answer, only impossible choices, made necessary by a system that prioritized politics over protection. The systematic abuse. The Bongino case is not isolated. Documents reviewed by congressional investigators reveal a pattern. 12 additional clearances, fast-tracked, despite red flags, despite concerns, despite protocols screaming, "Stop!" Security officers describe a culture of intimidation. Raise concerns, lose your career. Internal emails show explicit direction. Find a way to yes. Timelines shortened from months to weeks. Background checks curtailed. Follow-up investigations skipped. One email sent from a senior political appointee is particularly stark. We cannot allow security bureaucracy to impede the president's personnel choices. But security is not bureaucracy. It is the difference between safe and compromised, between protected and exposed, between functional government and catastrophic breach. And when security becomes negotiable, everything becomes vulnerable. The silence moment. Return again to that hearing room. After the confession. After the yes. Silence. Not the silence of shock. The silence of recognition. Because everyone in that room understood. This was not about one person, one test, one failure. This was about a system designed to prevent exactly this kind of compromise. A system that had been systematically dismantled, not through reform, not through legislation, but through pressure, through shortcuts, through the quiet insistence that standards are obstacles. Senator Durbin does not speak immediately. He simply looks at the papers before him, at the testimonies of security officers, at the warnings from intelligence professionals, at the decades of protocol being overridden by weeks of political convenience. When he finally speaks, his voice is quiet. How many more? Patel does not answer, because the answer is too damaging. Because the answer is, we don't know. Viral aftermath. The video clip spreads, not gradually, instantly. Durbin forces. Confession, FB. I nominee admits Bongino failed polygraph within hours. 40 million views. Within a day, international headlines. But beyond the views, something shifts. European media, typically cautious about American domestic politics, leads with the story. Le Monde. Crisis of confidence in transatlantic security. Der Spiegel. When politics override protection. The Bongino scandal. The Guardian. 7 whistleblowers. 1 question. Who is keeping Europe safe? Social media explodes with a different kind of outrage. Not partisan. Professional. Security experts, intelligence veterans, counterterrorism analysts, across the political spectrum, express alarm. A retired MI5 officer tweets, "Polygraphs aren't perfect, but when someone fails and you fast-track their clearance anyway, that's not reform, that's recklessness." 42,000 retweets. A former NATO intelligence coordinator writes, "Every allied service is now asking, what else did they fast-track? Who else failed and got approved? We deserve answers. But beneath the professional concern runs something deeper, a recognition that this moment represents something larger, a test of whether security standards can survive political pressure, whether institutions designed to protect can withstand attempts to compromise them, whether the boring, unglamorous work of vetting and verification, the work that happens in quiet offices, far from cameras, still matters. The answer from Europe is unequivocal. Yes, it matters. It must matter. Because when it stops mattering, everything else stops mattering too. The moral question. Late night in The Hague. A counterterrorism analyst finishes reading the congressional testimony. She closes her laptop, sits in darkness, and asks the question that haunts this entire story. If we cannot trust the vetting, can we trust anything else? Because security clearances are not bureaucratic checkboxes. They are the foundation of classified work, the promise that someone entrusted with secrets can be trusted, the assurance that politics will not override protection. When that foundation cracks, everything built upon it becomes unstable. Intelligence sharing, joint operations, crisis response, alliance coordination. All of it rests on the belief that the people with access have been properly vetted, that standards were maintained, that someone, somewhere, said no when no needed to be said. But what happens when no becomes impossible? When political pressure makes refusal career-ending? When security officers are told to find a way to yes? What happens is this. A man who failed a polygraph gets a clearance. Whistleblowers risk everything to speak out. Allied nations quietly withdraw trust. And the architecture of security, built painstakingly over decades, fractures. Not from external attack, from internal compromise. The beige folder remains, stamped, classified, filed. Inside, the polygraph results that should have ended a clearance process, but didn't. In Washington, the hearings continue. In Brussels, the emergency sessions extend. In security offices across 2 continents, professionals recalibrate trust. 7 whistleblowers have spoken. Their message is simple. Standards exist for a reason. Tests matter. Red flags are not obstacles to overcome. They are warnings to heed. And when those warnings are ignored, when political expedience overrides security protocol, the cost is not abstract. It is measured in compromised operations, in endangered sources, in fractured alliances, in the quiet erosion of the very systems designed to keep people safe. Senator Durbin's question echoes. How many more? The question Europe asks is different. How do we rebuild what has been broken? Because trust, once fractured, does not simply heal. It must be earned back, protocol by protocol, standard by standard, verification by verification. The boring work, the unglamorous work, the work that happens in quiet offices far from headlines, the work that says, some things cannot be compromised, some standards cannot be negotiated, some tests must mean something, or nothing does. The polygraph didn't fail Dan Bongino. The system that approved him anyway failed everyone else. Congressional investigations continue. European intelligence reviews ongoing. 7 FBI security officers await retaliation. The clearance remains active.